There is a silence the world keeps just before a storm or a sunrise. In that hush, life speaks not in words, but in symbols, pauses, losses, detours. We are taught to wait for signs, for certainty, for someone. But what if the waiting is the lesson? What if the very absence of rescue is the invitation to remember what has always stirred quietly within us? You see, no one is coming to save you, not because you are forgotten, but because you are meant to remember. You are not lost, you are becoming. Like stars that collapse inward to be reborn in brilliance, we too are shaped by unseen hands through solitude, struggle, and stillness. Every challenge, every delay, every unanswered prayer is not abandonment, it's choreography. Divine, deliberate, unfinished. So pause, not in fear, but in reverence. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be saved. You were meant to awaken. Have you ever noticed how much of our lives are spent waiting? Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for someone to notice. Waiting for permission. Waiting for permission. Waiting for a sign. It's subtle, almost invisible, this posture of delay. We carry it in the way we hesitate to speak up, in the way we delay starting something that matters, in the way we whisper to ourselves, I'll begin when things are clearer, easier, safer. Somewhere along the way, we were taught to believe that our breakthrough would arrive from beyond us. That someone, more capable, more certain, more powerful, would show up and lead us out of the fog. We inherited the myth of the rescuer, the one who fixes, the one who saves. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That moment may never come. That person may never appear. Not because life is cruel or indifferent, but because you were never meant to be rescued. You were meant to remember. We have confused rescue with relief. And while rescue gives you momentary safety, remembering gives you lasting strength. It's a quiet realization, and it doesn't happen all at once. It usually comes in the in-between places, when something falls apart, and no one rushes in to catch it. When we face a decision so heavy that even those closest to us can't carry it for us. When we're left with nothing but our own breath and the sound of our heartbeat reminding us, you're still here. What we call Esophton hides what we're really doing, avoiding failure. Avoiding judgment, avoiding the weight of our own potential. Because if someone else shows up and does the hard thing, we don't have to face the parts of ourselves we're not sure we can trust yet. But growth doesn't arrive at your door with a flashlight. It hands you a match, points toward the dark, and says, walk. And somewhere in that journey, faltering, fumbling, doubting, you begin to realize that you're capable of more than you thought. Not because you're suddenly fearless, but because you kept going despite the fear. This is the paradox of life. The very strength we wait for is the strength we build when we stop waiting. It's not about doing it all alone. This isn't a sermon on self-reliance and isolation. We need one another. We grow together. But what I'm saying is deeper than that. I'm saying the spark has to be yours. The first step, the first breath, the first yes, that's yours to offer. And no one else can offer it for you. Look around at the moments in your life when you changed. Not the ones where things got easier. The ones where something within you decided to rise. Up. You're sucked to rise. Not because it was time, but because you decided it was time. You see, the life you want, the peace, the clarity, the direction, is not locked behind someone else's arrival. It's waiting inside the courage you've been postponing. And maybe that's the most sacred thing about being human, that we carry within us the very things we spend our lives searching for. Once we begin to trust that, really trust it, something shifts. We stop waiting. We start creating. We start creating. We stop hoping someone else sees us, and we begin to see ourselves. So no one is coming to save you. But that's not the tragedy. That's the beginning. Because it means you're the one you've been waiting for all along. There's a particular kind of silence that unnerves us, not the peaceful kind, like the hush of dawn or the stillness of a quiet room, but the kind that feels like absence, the kind that follows a question we've asked life, and the answer doesn't seem to come. We don't talk about that silence much, but it's there. In the moments when a prayer feels unanswered, in the in-between space after a door has closed but before another one opens, in the long pause between the life we imagined and the one we're actually living, and when that silence shows up, it can feel like we've been forgotten. Like life is standing still, like we're doing something wrong. But what if that silence isn't punishment? What if it's presence of a different kind? You see, we've grown up in a world that celebrates movement, constant progress, visible achievement, fast answers. Fast answers. We've been trained to equate value with velocity. If you're not moving, something must be broken. But life, real life, doesn't always work like that. Sometimes the most profound things are growing in the dark, without our permission or awareness. Think about a seed. When it's planted, nothing appears to happen. There's no applause, no evidence of success, just dirt. But underneath, something ancient and essential is taking place, roots forming, reaching down, building stability before growth can ever be seen above ground. It's the same with us. When we're in the quiet places, the seasons of doubt or stillness or delay, something is happening beneath the surface. The silence is not empty, it's full of instruction, but we have to learn to hear it. Because silence doesn't shout, it invites. It doesn't push. It pulls gently toward a kind of inner listening we're not used to practicing. So, what does it mean to truly listen to silence? It means not rushing to fill it with noise or solutions. It means sitting with the discomfort long enough to hear what's underneath the urge to escape it. Sometimes what you'll hear is fear, or sadness, or confusion. And that's okay. Those aren't mistakes. They're signposts. They're parts of you that want to be acknowledged, not fixed. You don't have to have the answers in those moments. You just have to stay. Stay long enough for the silence to teach you something. There is a quiet intelligence inside life, something far deeper than what we can plan or predict. When we allow ourselves to stop grasping, to stop needing every chapter to make sense right away, we begin to notice that the pauses are part of the music. Like the rests between the notes in a symphony, the silence is what gives the sound its meaning. And isn't that what we really want? Not just a life that's busy, but a life that means something. Not just motion, but movement that's aligned. Sometimes clarity doesn't come in the form of a voice or a sign. It comes in the shape of silence and our willingness to trust it. To trust that life hasn't abandoned us. That something larger is still at work, even if we don't see it yet. And when we stop fighting the silence, something beautiful happens. We soften. We begin to hear the quieter truths, the ones that aren't loud enough to compete with chaos. We begin to sense the direction of our own soul, which often doesn't scream, but always knows. It's easy to forget that growth often looks like nothing on the outside. It's easy to panic when life slows down or gets quiet. But just because nothing is visible doesn't mean nothing is happening. Some of your most important becoming will happen in those still, sacred spaces where you feel alone, and yet something in you is awakening. That's not a delay, that's preparation. So the next time the world goes quiet, don't rush to fill it. Lean in, listen. You might just hear the whisper of who you are meant to become, because in the silence you are not forgotten. You are being formed. Pain has this uncanny way of showing up just when we think we found our rhythm. Things are going well, and then loss, disappointment, a curveball we never saw coming, and our first instinct is almost always the same. Why is this happening to me? We want answers. We want reasons. We want some form of logic that makes the discomfort worth it. And most of all, we want it to stop. But what if difficulty isn't here to destroy us? What if it's here to shape us? Think about anything beautiful and strong in the natural world. A diamond begins as carbon placed under immense pressure over time. Mountains are formed by the collision of tectonic plates. Even a pearl starts with an irritant inside an oyster. Nature doesn't seem to avoid stress. It transforms through it. And maybe we're not so different. And we tend to think of challenges as interruptions. But what if they're invitations? What if the struggle itself is a sign that something is being refined? Not outside of us, but within us. There are seasons in life that feel like breaking. We don't get to skip them. We can't intellectualize our way out of them. And yet, those are often the moments we remember later as pivotal. Not because they were easy, but because they changed us. Not just what we do, but how we see, how we show up, who we become. We often assume the hard moments are detours. But what if they're the road? What if the hardship is not an obstacle to your purpose, but part of the very blueprint of it? It's strange to say this out loud, but some of the most meaningful, life-shaping conversations I've had didn't happen at celebrations. They happened at rock bottom. When someone had lost everything they thought they needed and somehow found what they truly couldn't live without. There's something sacred about the moment when a person discovers that, even in the midst of pain, there is still a part of them that is unshaken, still breathing, still choosing, still alive. That doesn't mean we glorify suffering. This isn't about romanticizing pain or pretending it's all part of some grand plan that always feels good. It's not. Pain is real. Loss is real. But so is what pain reveals. It strips away the non-essential. It confronts us with ourselves. And in doing so, it gives us clarity. We stop pretending. We stop waiting to be understood or validated. We start paying attention to what matters. There's a kind of wisdom you only earn in the fire. And when you come out the other side, even if you're a little bruised, even if you carry scars, you also carry something else. Depth. And depth cannot be faked. It's the thing that makes a leader worth following. It's what turns advice into resonance. People don't follow you because you've had it easy. They follow you because you've walked through something and didn't lose yourself in the process. And maybe that's what divine design really looks like. Not a perfect path, but a path that perfects you. Not by removing pain, but by transforming your relationship to it. So much of our growth isn't about gaining something new. It's about shedding what no longer serves us. Ego, approval, the need to control every outcome. Difficulty has a way of peeling those layers back. And beneath them, there's something steady, something true, something you may not have met yet. Your truest self, forged by the very fire you feared would consume you. So the next time it feels like life is pressing in, like things are falling apart, pause. Before you rush to escape it, ask yourself, what if this isn't happening to me? What if it's happening for me? And I know that question doesn't change the pain, but it does change you. Because once you stop resisting the difficulty and begin to work with it, it becomes a kind of sacred collaborator. Stops being the thing you run from and becomes the thing you rise through. Somewhere inside, the very moment you wish would end is a lesson you'll carry for the rest of your life. And when the lesson takes root, you'll realize you didn't just survive, you were sculpted. Because the pressure that once broke you open was always meant to build you whole. We grow up with stories, hero stories, the lone warrior, the savior figure, the chosen one who emerges from the chaos and changes everything. And somewhere along the way, whether we realize it or not, we start waiting for that person to show up in our own lives. Someone who will have the answers, someone who will lift the weight. Someone who will lift the weight. Someone who will tell us, this is the way. It's an easy story to believe because it lets us off the hook. If someone else is meant to save us, then we don't have to take that first scary step. We don't have to make the hard choice. We can stay where we are, frustrated, maybe, but safe. But here's the truth most of us eventually come to realize, sometimes after years of hoping, the hero isn't coming. No one is going to climb inside your life and figure it out for you, and that's not cause for despair. That's your awakening. The real guide, the most reliable one, you already know them. You've heard their voice before, even if only in fleeting moments. They show up not with grand speeches, but in quiet urgings. You speak up. You try again. I let go. They don't always sound like confidence. Sometimes they sound like restlessness, like tension, like the ache that says something about this doesn't sit right with me anymore. That voice is not loud, because it doesn't need to be. It's yours. It's been with you from the beginning. We've been taught to idolize external leadership, and yes, we need people. We need mentors, teachers, friends who walk beside us. But no external voice should ever drown out your own inner compass. No map can replace what you know, deep down, to be right for you. What we call a wisdom isn't always learned, it's remembered. It comes rushing back in those moments when we finally stop outsourcing our intuition. When we stop saying, tell me what to do, and start asking, what do I already know? And the truth is, most of the time, we do know. We know when we're staying too long in something that's no longer meant for us. We know when we're avoiding a conversation we need to have. We know when we're betraying our own values just to be accepted or liked. But tuning into that, knowing takes practice. Because the world will try to talk you out of it. There will always be louder voices offering shortcuts and certainty. But the best decisions you'll ever make, the ones that truly change your life, won't come from a checklist or a guru. They'll come from a deep sense of alignment. Or a feeling that might not be easy, but is true. We think courage is about being fearless, but real courage is about listening to your own truth, even when it doesn't match anyone else's expectations. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when it's lonely. Because that's the moment leadership begins. Not when people follow you, but when you follow you. When your steps reflect your values. When your choices echo what matters to you. That's how trust is built. Not just the trust others place in you, but the trust you place in yourself. Lux. Every time you honor that inner guide, no matter how small the act, you send a message. I am someone who can be counted on. And that creates momentum. That becomes a kind of quiet strength, rooted, not performative, not needing applause, but grounded in purpose. Eventually, you stop asking for someone to show you the way, because you realize you are the way, and that changes everything. You stop seeking constant validation. You stop waiting for someone to say, "Oh, we're ready." You decide that readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. And no more waiting for a guide to appear. No more hoping someone else will carry the fire for you. You are the fire. You are the compass. So yes, it's beautiful to be supported, to be surrounded, to be loved. But don't forget, the clearest voice, the most powerful guide, has always been your own. And the moment you choose to trust it is the moment your life begins to move. Have you ever stood outside at night, looked up, and felt small? I don't mean insignificant. I mean small in a way that's oddly comforting. Like realizing you're part of something vast, something ancient, something so intricately woven that it couldn't possibly be random. That feeling? That's perspective, and we don't get it often enough. Most days, life feels like a series of tasks, emails, bills, traffic, conversations, stress. And in the middle of it all, it's easy to forget that we're part of something so much bigger than ourselves. We zoom in so tightly on our own problems that we forget the bigger picture we're standing in. But the truth is, your life, yes, yours, is not happening in isolation. It's connected to others, to moments, to patterns you can't yet see. You are not just living your story, you're part of the story. Think about it. Every person you've ever met has been shaped by someone before them. Every word you've spoken has the potential to echo in someone else's life, long after the moment has passed. That small gesture of kindness, that decision to show up, that conversation you almost didn't have, those things don't disappear. They ripple. They move outward like waves from a single drop in still water. And you are one of those drops. You are a thread in a much larger tapestry. Not the whole design, but essential to its pattern. Without your thread, the fabric is incomplete. But we forget this, especially in hard times. When things fall apart or feel too heavy, we tend to shrink inward. We tell ourselves it's all meaningless, or that no one would notice if we gave up. But those thoughts, while very human, aren't the truth. The truth is, you are seen more than you realize. You are needed more than you know. The irony is, the people who feel most disconnected are often the ones whose presence holds the most quiet power. Not because they shout, but because they carry, because they see, because they choose over and over again to keep showing up when it would be easier to disappear. And that showing up, that's not just resilience, that's contribution. That's how you hold your corner of the sky. We tend to think of legacy as something we leave behind, but it's not. Legacy is what we're building right now in real time, whether we mean to or not. It's how we make people feel. It's how we treat those who can't give us anything in return. It's the imprint of our choices, big and small. The truth is, someone is learning how to live by watching you. Someone is finding hope in the way you keep going. Someone is healing because you had the courage to speak. You may never know who, you may never see the full effect of your life. But that doesn't make it any less real. We tend to wait until the end of something to give it meaning. But meaning isn't what we find after everything makes sense. It's what we give in the middle of the uncertainty. And that meaning? It's cumulative. It grows each time we act with intention, with kindness, with courage, even when, especially when it feels like no one is watching. You're not here by accident. The timing of your life, the people you've met, the gifts you carry, the wounds you've healed from, they all serve a purpose larger than just you. You are not a random note in a chaotic song. You're part of the symphony. You may not hear the whole melody right now, but you're playing your part. And if you stop playing, if you silence your truth, your presence, your voice, something in the music goes missing. So yes, it can feel lonely sometimes. Yes, it can feel like the world doesn't notice, but don't mistake invisibility for irrelevance. Boo. Some of the most vital roles are the ones played quietly, faithfully, without fanfare. And the beauty is, you don't have to understand the entire composition to trust the music. Because every moment you live with integrity, every time you choose to act from love rather than fear, you keep the rhythm going. And the rhythm matters. Because your life is not just yours, it's a gift to everything it touches. So if you ever wonder whether you matter, remember this: the universe doesn't waste time composing symphonies that won't be heard. There comes a moment, usually quiet, often inconvenient, when you realize no one is going to fix it. Not your parents, not your boss, not your partner, not the government, not even the version of you you've been fantasizing about becoming a someday. And when that realization hits, it can feel like grief. Because up until that point, some part of you believed that rescue would eventually arrive. You could keep stalling, keep blaming, keep hoping that something or someone would come along and rewrite the story for you, for you. But then life hands you the mirror, and for the first time you really see yourself. Not as the victim, not as the one waiting to be chosen, but as the one holding the pen, and it changes everything. This isn't about blame. This is about responsibility. And responsibility, as strange as it sounds, is a gift. Because it means your life is not in someone else's hands. It's in yours. There's a kind of power that only wakes up when you finally stop waiting. When you stop hoping for permission and start choosing on purpose. It's not loud. It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it's steady. And it grows stronger each time you show up. Not because you feel ready, but because you've decided to stop running. The funny thing about responsibility is that most of us think it's going to weigh us down. But in reality, it's the thing that lifts us up. It gives shape to our potential. It's the moment the fog starts to clear, not because everything becomes easy, but because we've stopped outsourcing our power. You stop saying, "I wish someone would show me how," and you start asking, "What can I do with what I have right now?" You stop wishing life would be different, and you begin participating in its becoming. And yes, there will be resistance, from the world and from within. Because taking responsibility means saying goodbye to excuses that once kept us safe. Safe. It means owning the fact that while we can't always control what happens to us, we are always shaping what happens through us. You begin to realize that the outcomes you long for aren't waiting out there somewhere. They are the result of the habits you build, the conversations you have, the boundaries you set, the risks you take. And all of those are within your reach, not someday, but today. And once you taste that kind of agency, you don't want to go back. Because now, when life gets hard, you don't just shut down and wait. You respond, you adapt, you act. That's what it means to be awake. Not just in your mind, but in your choices. To be present enough to notice when you're falling asleep at the wheel. To feel the discomfort of avoidance and decide to step forward anyway. And that step doesn't have to be huge. It can be small, deliberate. It can look like an honest conversation, a decision to try again, a refusal to shrink, because that's how momentum works. It starts as a whisper, not a roar. And before you know it, you're no longer the person who waits to be saved. You're the person who builds, who leads, who becomes a lighthouse for others, simply because you chose to light your own way first. That's the ripple effect of responsibility. It doesn't just transform you. It becomes permission for others to rise too. And suddenly you're not just responding to life, you're creating it. Deliberately. Honestly. Powerfully. So yes, no one is coming to save you, but maybe that's not the tragedy. Maybe that's the point. Because when you stop waiting to be rescued, you discover you were always capable of building the life you were waiting for. And it's the style